Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're going to do a little throwback video today. We're going to expand on our very first video that we done.
I think it was
first
the first
or second.
It was one of the first.
Certainly one of the first couple. When we first launched the YouTube channel, which feels like that, you know, a long time ago, but it was only really kind of five months ago?
Just under 5 months ago.
Just under 5 months ago, feels like a lot longer. But we talked a little bit in that one of those early videos about stock shafts versus aftermarket shafts, the differences between the two, the material difference, the intent behind the manufacturing process and who those shafts were designed for. And we thought it was about time we expanded on that a little bit and just maybe take a little deeper dive into some of the intricacies of that.
Well, so the initial video was really good, I think, in explaining the manufacturing differences and why one costs less and one costs more and how they make them on a budget for stock shafts and they don't make them on a budget for aftermarket shafts. The curiosity that I've seen from the comments is test it out.
Test
it out and let us know how it's feeling for you, how is it performing, why is it different? That's what we want to do with this.
And for me, some of the things, I mean, we're not really selling too many stock products in here. A lot of people will come to a TXG because they want to test the best materials. You know, it's taking your car to the tuning shop to get, you know, a little some extra parts in there, so ups the horsepower a little bit. We kind of do that to golf clubs, and we're looking at, you know, the tailor-made version of the Atmos shaft.
Right.
And we're looking at the tour spec Fujikura Atmos.
Gotcha. So the aftermarket version of that, or sorry, I should say that this is the shaft that they start with, and then they make a stock version for companies. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, they make a stock version
the opposite direction.
That has kind of, you know, a lot of people will throw about some terms like the watered down version. It's not so much the watered down version as much as it's not the 90-ton carbon fiber. It's maybe a mix of, you know, 18-ton carbon fiber and 30-ton carbon fiber, and it's a bit of a mixed bag in there. But for a lot of golfers, Matt, that's what they need.
I was going to say, so this video will not go the route of one is better than the other. That's
definitely
not at all where this is going to go.
We're not out there preaching going, do not buy that stock garbage. It will never work for you. You have to upgrade and stuff. I mean, to be honest, if you are a certain type of swing, a stock shaft will probably work better. I mean, forget stock, forget the aftermarket. It's a shaft.
It's differently made and differently targeted.
That's right. It's a shaft with torque specifications and you know, EI profile specifications that differ from the aftermarket lines of stuff.
Right.
We know that certain, you know, shafts have certain speeds. Like at your speed, we're going to be interested to test it with you, because at your speed, does a stock shaft at the higher torque ratings and slightly softer profile, does that stand up to your speed?
Yep.
We're going to find out.
Exactly.
We're going to test it and find out.
That's what I think everyone wants, is just some data between the two.
And then at the end of it, we'll recap and obviously look at things like dispersion and ball speed maintenance and launch and spin fluctuation and all that sort of stuff. And I think maybe, you know, if you can give us your 2 cents and obviously feel. And,
the feel of it.
If you feel like the shaft kind of plays the same way, as consistent, that sort of stuff. So, you know, we know kind of the intricacies of the shafts themselves. So, you know, we'll try and help a little bit towards you know, discussing those design characteristics.
So people will be familiar with just we'll call them the paint jobs, but this is the color scheme that they'll see on a tailor-made product.
Yep.
And this would be the aftermarket Atmos shaft.
Correct.
It doesn't come in red this way.
Yep.
So just from a visual standpoint, that's not always the case, I guess. Sometimes people will see the stock option look basically exactly the same.
Yeah.
Do you find that that's kind of still happening, or are they getting away from that a bit?
Well, this is the tour spec Atmos range. So this is the kind of, you know, the slightly stronger profile. That's the retail version. They actually have a version that they sell now at Fujikura, so not just as a stock product that shares that graphics. So this is the white one, signifies the tour spec range, and then you've got the red, which is tip soft, the blue, which is mid-tip stiffness, and then the black, which is stiffer than that.
So would you say from a stock, you know, a stock shaft profile, they're not usually really stiff profiles, they're not usually low torque profiles. Correct. They're generally the other direction.
They're catered to a really wide group of people, the masses. So they're thinking of, you know, the 18 handicap golfer that, you know, is struggling for a little bit of consistency, and maybe not going to see full value and going into the kind of aftermarket world from a price perspective, because that stuff gets. I mean, this shaft's no joke. It's $449.
Right.
It's expensive. So some people will see limited returns on that investment.
Which is fair enough.
Which is absolutely
you got to test
fair
it out and find out if it's worth it.
We are very conscious of that in our fits, that if we see very minimal increases in performance with the aftermarket stuff, we'll go listen. Go with the stock version. We'll get you. We'll order something as close to that profile as we can.
Yep.
And then further down the line, if you want to upgrade into something that has some tighter tolerances and that sort of thing, by all means, we can do that as well.
So if you were to find, this may not be that possible with too many manufacturers, but if you were to find a stock shaft and an aftermarket counterpart, are there ever a case where they say this is the same shaft but they've used a different manufacturing process, or is there always some kind of a different profile at play?
Interesting. It's a good question.
For the most part, it's usually a bit different.
A while back, some people who are kind of been techie aficionados will go back to when Titleist used to make a version of the Diamana Blue board.
Okay.
They had a version of the Blue board called the 5XC, the XCT5, right? That's a Japanese term. The North American term was called the 4GT. So it was the exact spec. It was exactly the same sort of shaft in terms of the cosmetics. There was minor, small details, and that was either whether you were a 5XCT or you were a 4GT.
Okay.
So it was just a design spec. So they're actually different shafts.
Okay.
The 4GT was the stock version made for Titleist.
Right.
The 5XCT was the aftermarket version. It was the Japanese
and
spec.
they looked essentially identical.
Identical,
but
literally.
They played quite a bit different.
They played differently. Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
So, from that perspective, they had the exact. They were kind of almost. At that point, I think that's where the consumer was starting to get frustrated. Like, okay,
that's probably where it peaked.
Why are you leading us towards thinking that this is the aftermarket version and it's not?
Because this is ideal the way that TaylorMade has it with these two shafts. I know you said there's one that looks a little bit more like this, but they do look different.
Yeah.
The graphics aren't exactly the same.
That's right.
So at least in the store, you can say, okay, I know that's the TaylorMade one.
And there was a while back there, TaylorMade were very adamant that they wanted regardless of what shaft it was, they wanted their TP line of shafts to have it was actually the R1 line of shafts. Remember that? And they all looked the same.
They're like two-toned
except,
in that way, right?
Yeah, exactly. They were kind of burnt orange sort of colour. And the detail was, would indicate what the actual shaft was itself.
Thing on there,
it would just show you whether it was a graphite design or Fujiku or whatever it was. So, we definitely want to see, though, today what the performance differences are. That's the key.
For sure.
All right, let's start you with the
stock.
The stock. We've got the 9.5 M3.
Yep.
We've got the weights forward, and we've got it one click open to nudge the loft down a little bit for you, Matt.
Okay.
Let's see how this performs. So be curious to see how you feel. The stock shaft comes in a bit longer. I will say that as well, Matt. Half an inch shorter than what our shafts are in the wall. We play our demo shafts at 45 inches.
Yep.
This is 45 and a half.
Someone could order a stock shaft cut down a little bit, though, if they wanted to.
Yep. At no extra charge, they'll do that.
It's an okay swing, a little bit of a pull. This head I never, in testing, have ever hit very high, have I?
No.
This M3?
No.
It's
You've always hit it quite low, haven't you?
Bullets. So I'm feeling like the club is getting a little behind me.
Yep.
I'll see what the reading says. It's definitely, so that path being 7.8, that's way more in than I'm used to.
It'd be interesting to see if the shaft deflection plays much of a role in the measurement of the sweet spot where it's traveling. So ultimately, when it says you're 7 degrees from the inside, whatever that was there.
Okay.
whether that is playing a part in the club is kind of tracking more from the inside because of the deflection of the shaft.
Gotcha.
It's interesting to see if that's something we see. So we know that's the one shot. Matt worries about more, the one to the left, the high one. This is not a bad strike either.
No. That was probably the most solid. I'm surprised it's drawing that much because it felt like a good swing.
Very good swing. Very good swing. Slight toe. Look at the ball speed there. So I mean, there's something that, you know, aftermarket shaft, stock shaft, certainly not having any issue producing energy, you know, in the form of ball speed.
Right.
Club head speed was up at nearly 124. Interesting.
There can be a situation where a stock shaft could give you worse energy transfer, but would you say that's more than likely to do with the person's swing characteristics?
Yeah, I mean,
probably a faster transition or something like that?
If we want to categorize a shaft as to what it truly is, it is a timing device.
Yep.
It is an energy production device. So not a launch and spin production device.
Right, of course.
You know, and those things may come as a byproduct of how it bends, but really, you know, most people have heard me talk on the channel enough now about I don't really gravitate towards shafts for launch and spin adjustment. I more do them towards producing certain differences in the swing of the player.
Interesting.
Okay, so let's hit one more. Give us 5, and then we'll move into this aftermarket one, Matt. Feeling just a bit soft.
It does, yeah. I mean, I won't say it feels bad. It definitely feels a little loose.
I mean, you know, I hope we don't get too many comments about, you know, Matt's too quick for a stock shaft. We know that.
Yeah, we know that.
We obviously we get that, and we're just trying to kind of almost chat through a little bit of the differences between them. And
well, that's the thing. You could have someone come on and a stock shaft could be perfect for them, but the aftermarket one will be too stiff for them, for example.
For sure, we could.
But you know, apples to apples, will just show the differences between the two of them with the same swing.
Definitely.
Again, a decent hit. It just tends to really want to go right on me.
Okay. Right, let's switch it out, Matt. Let's throw the other one in there.
Okay.
Okay, Matty, so we've got a little switch in shafts here. We've got this is the aftermarket Atmos Black. So we've got the stiffest one, more suited to you.
Right.
We're trying to kind of almost, you know, show what it would be to give you the one that suits your timing the best.
I was just going to, before you even said that, touch on something. So the other advantage of going aftermarket versus stock is the options.
Yep.
Like if you're stock, you basically maybe have 2 options and then flexes, whereas aftermarket, there's how many different Atmos shafts are there aftermarket?
3, red, blue, black.
Right, so you've got now 3 different profiles plus the flexes to play with. So I guess someone could say, why would you bother going aftermarket? You're going to be able to tune more specifically, whereas that's really generic.
That's the key. The fine-tuning element of it is exactly the key to it. Really just dialing in the player a little bit more accurately and specifically.
Because that's the reason I'm saying that is, yes, obviously this is very different, but you can't even do this level of customization unless you go aftermarket.
I mean, you know, the TaylorMade cart or any OEM cart now they come with more aftermarket options than ever before. I hate to say it this way, but at times the problem is sometimes the people that are fitting them might have a hard time knowing exactly what they're
narrowing
really
it down
utilising.
to those options.
The ins and outs of the shaft. Now it's our job to do that. So you know, and if it's a tech rep for one of these companies, they'll know them as well. You know, they're trained to know them. But you know, if you're going into digging into your pro shop and you're digging into the cart and seeing what works, it's probably a bit of a crapshoot.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's a fitting tool. All the different aftermarket shafts are a fitting tool. You need to get them fit because there's so many options.
Yeah. Okay, let's hit a couple with this and see what we get. Okay, interesting stuff. You know, maybe let's start with your kind of feedback from what you felt and experienced first.
So I would say, first of all, I'm not the most attentive to the feel of a shaft.
Okay, that's a good point.
I'm not the type of person that would put a shaft down and say, oh, there's no way I can play that. Like, that's not me. That being said, the stock one for sure felt softer.
Yeah.
I felt it sort of bending as I'd made my transition. Felt like it maybe got a little behind me. And I definitely felt like it was tougher for me to deliver the club consistently and strike it consistently.
Yeah. And I think when Matt says got it behind him, what you're basically saying is the shaft was in, you know, too much deflection.
Right.
It was you know, it was in increased.
I felt that my hands were way ahead of. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but it was loaded too much.
Right.
So you're going to struggle. The number one thing you're going to struggle with that then is the club face control.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're going to struggle with club face control. You're going to struggle with strike point. That's going to lead to some inconsistencies. So we saw a bit of a golf shaft stereotype tonight.
We did, yeah.
We saw the soft shaft hook.
Yep.
And the stiffer shaft goes straighter.
Which, and again, I would like to start by saying, like, we're not trying to make a groundbreaking video here. That's not, I mean, this result is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I'd rather chat more about the subtle things that we saw. Like, I went after a couple with the stiffer profile aftermarket shaft, and it just held up better for my swing and stayed away from the hook.
Right.
And the softer one, when I went after it a little bit, really got away from me, kind of thing. But again, that's not surprising.
And you struggle a bit with M3 anyway, don't you?
M3 is not my favorite in terms of what
spin's too low.
Yeah, the spin is very low. So that, I mean, the reason we're seeing these spin numbers so low that we're going to show in a second, that's not my typical launch. That's the M3 is that low spin. Yeah. It really is for me.
Definitely. Ball speed wise, I mean, so we talk about energy production. Not much in it. Nothing, literally nothing. It's, you know, 0.3 of a mile an hour, nothing there. Between launch and two launch angles, there was about 0.9 of a degree in favour of the Atmos Black launching higher.
And that to me would just be swing, like that. There's probably no actual difference.
The variances of the human, you know, is it's definitely bigger. No spin difference.
Spin difference.
I mean, it's not even worth talking about the spin difference. It was exactly the same, 1,546 versus 1,599. More just on the height. The stock shaft flew lower and more right. The shaft, the aftermarket Atmos flew higher and more on line.
Yes. So I felt that the Atmos Black, I try to start the ball a little left and draw it back. That shaft, I felt the ability to do that, and then the stock one just tended to get away from me a bit down the right side.
We saw the dynamic lie angle change a little bit, and the stock shaft was in a little bit more.
That's interesting.
Yeah, downward droop.
So 1 degree flatter because of the amount of droop in the shaft.
Yep, exactly.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we saw the moral of the story is, you know, the right shaft for you is going to be, you know, obviously something more along the lines of the tour spec. It's much more consistent for you. We thought that would happen anyway.
Of course.
The interesting thing to do would be maybe to reverse engineer this one day. Let's go stiffer stock shaft with softer, you know, aftermarket shaft,
and see how much closer they are.
See if it's truly the stock shaft versus aftermarket shaft, or it's the, you know, softer profile versus stiffer profile. It
would be interesting.
Reverse engineer the test.
Yeah.
See what we see, but you know, we can do what we do with what we have today, which is those two Atmos shafts.
Yeah.
So. Good. I mean, strike points were very different. That's one big variable that we'll see from two shafts that are deflecting very differently. You know, if we look at on something like Gears Golf, you know, something that measures the deflection of the shaft, you know, this is something, you know, where you'll see more about the deflection readings and how much increased dynamic loft you'll get from one to the other.
Right.
You know, our launch monitors will read more of the dynamics of what the head does. The shaft plays a part in the dynamics of what the head does.
Yeah, and we saw more dynamic loft from the stock shaft, as you say, more deflection that way.
Working more in lead deflection. Yeah, we would expect to see that.
So these were all things that we expected. So if I were watching this objectively, I would say your moral of the story should be stock versus aftermarket shaft. That's not the important story. They're just two different shafts in a variety of options that you could be fit for.
Yeah.
And stock shafts, yes, generally do tend to be softer.
That's
something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
If you're someone that swings a bit slower, more than likely you'd be okay with one, depending on your swing. If you're a faster player, then yeah, you might have to really do your research and say, okay, an aftermarket shaft is probably going to hold up better for me with my speed. But that's to me what I would take away from this is don't take a stock shaft as it's never a bad option. It's just an option. It's something different than all the other aftermarket options are. Something to test out and see how it works. That's for sure really all you can say.
Definitely. Okay, guys, I hope this has been helpful. Certainly leave your comments below. I think this is going to be one that you know, triggers a little bit of thought.
I was just going to say, if you guys can leave some comments about different shaft tests you'd like to see, I'd like to make this the first of a little shaft testing series.
Interesting,
We're sort of just dabbling in it here. It's obviously an uncomplicated test, but something just to get the conversation going. Leave us some comments about some other shaft-related videos you want to see, and let's make a little series about testing shafts.
Well, and we can maybe drop the little teaser in there about, you know, we are going to do a lot of this stuff, and we're going to do it in a little more of a scientific fashion, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we're actually going to, you know, be working towards some more robot testing on this type of thing, where we can control all the variables, eliminate the human sort of element, which is, you know, some people say that the human element always has to be there because it's the human who swings a golf club, but, you know, we just want to test shaft to shaft, what happens? If swung at the same speed, what happens? So, you know, we're definitely going to be doing some robot testing. You know, what happens when, you know, a softer shaft is struck in the toe and the heel versus a stiffer shaft in the toe and the heel.
Very interesting stuff.
Is the deflection increased on those ones? So we're going to get into that. You know, that's where we can, you know, really have some fun and really bring some science to this whole thing.
I was going to say, that's the vision for where we hope this will go. There's always going to be a human testing element, but I think for us to be able to do both would make this kind of the best destination to learn about clubs, because then you'd be able to see how does it affect a golfer, and then how do I actually just compare two products scientifically, side by side.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Excellent. Guys, thanks so much again for tuning in. As we said, leave your comments. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. We've got the 10,000 subscriber giveaway still going on.
We're still going on. We're getting there.
We're getting there. I think we're kind of maybe got probably 3 weeks maybe to go, you thinking that?
If I estimated, about a month to 3 weeks.
Okay, so we've got those three Mura wedges, gorgeous Mura wedges to give away. So gap sand lob wedge with any shaft of your choice. So if you haven't already entered that competition, do so. Subscribe, leave your comment. That will get you entered into the competition.
It will.
And we'll see you again soon.